sample of wild California buckwheat. So I'm going to be harvesting some of that and create a flour from that. Well, this is a wild California buckwheat, and I'm going to harvest some of this stuff to make a flour. It's pretty abundant out here, so yeah, I'm going to get quite a bit of this. It'll range from a light brown to almost a whitish color, and even very dark brown. So you can see here I've harvested quite a large amount of wild California buckwheat, but it needs to dry out. So what I'm going to do is transfer it over to here. The tin foil is just to help reflect sunlight, dry the seeds out, layer it flat, and set it outside in the sun. It's been drying for approximately 6 to 8 hours, and it feels pretty dry. Next step is to process those flours and get the stems off there, make it into a flour that we can actually bake with. Okay, I'm going to start the recipe for these wild buckwheat pancakes. I'm just going to use a big container there. The buckwheat has been processed, and there's our end results. It's kind of a medium brown. Now I used a coffee grinder to get the grains down to a fine powder, almost like a flour. So I'm going to start with the dry ingredients first, and then the wet ingredients. Mix that up, let it sit for about 10-15 minutes. It's going to put a lot of air bubbles into that mixture, so it'll be nice and fluffy. Okay, I've kind of amended this recipe. I didn't quite have a full cup of the buckwheat flour, so I've got about 3/4. So I'm going to alter this recipe slightly. Pour in your 3/4. It started off with a cup, but now it's 3/4 cup of buckwheat flour, and that's the wild buckwheat flour. I don't have pure white sugar. I'm using brown sugar. So that's 1 1/4 teaspoons of sugar, 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder, 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And this is pink Himalayan salt, so it's a little different. I just grinded it, so a little gourmet style here. Alright, that's the dry ingredients. I'm just going to kind of mix that up and then add the wet ingredients. Hey, nice motorcycle. Okay, next I'm going to put in the wet ingredients, which is going to be 1 1/4 cups of buttermilk, 1 medium egg, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. So I'm going to kind of mix that in, and then I'm going to whisk it, because I'm whisking a lot making this recipe. I'm not sure how this will taste, but yeah, we're going to find out. So just keep mixing that up till the buckwheat flour incorporates into the egg and buttermilk wet mixture, and start some pancakes. It smells pretty good. I can smell the buckwheat and the buttermilk kind of making a nice mixture there. A little bit of butter in the pan. I'll put on medium-high for right now. Let that heat up. Okay, we got some butter spread around in that pan. I'm gonna put a little bit of batter down. It's really quite thick. I'll probably make 3 medium-sized to small pancakes in this pan. Kick the heat down to medium and let those cook. Well, this mixture is pretty thick. I'm going to go ahead and flip them over. I hope this camera picks this up. They almost look like hamburger patties. But let's see. I might add a little more buttermilk to this mixture because it is a little bit thicker than I anticipated. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and plate these pancakes and see how how they taste. Alright, I'm going to add a little bit of whipped butter on there. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe a touch more underneath. Well, they're crumbly. They could use probably a bit more egg. I'm going to put some maple syrup on there and then give it a taste. Pretty good. It's a little floury, kind of woodsy, but yeah, you can make pancakes with wild buckwheat, and they taste pretty good. Put a little powdered sugar on there if you want a little bit sweeter, but yeah, not bad.